Okay, so in today's session, we will talk about agents. Again, these agents are not 007, what you think, but they are the agent of AI or AI agents, which act as a part of the AI system and that empowers the LLM to do what we call a system to thinking. Now, you all might be wondering what I'm talking about when I say system to thinking. So let's get started first. Typically, when you are using any LLM like ChatGPT, you ask it to do something. Let's say we are prompting that, okay, write me a job description for blah. And the LLM is going to print it for you, right? It's not doing any thinking, it's simply outputting the text without thinking like typically a human would think. But what we call this is more of a system one thinking. So there is an author, a book called Thinking Fast and Slow by Daniel Kahneman. And particularly he focuses on two types of thinking we as a human go through. Thinking fast, which is some sort of an intuition, some sort of an instinct or system one thinking, and thinking slow, which is sort of a rational thinking or a system 2 thinking. And system 1 thinking is considered as a fast, subconscious, some sort of an automatic, we give our own response without even thinking, versus system 2 requires some sort of an effort, some sort of a conscious effort. That way we are able to analyze the thing and then we are able to make a decision. Typically, if you are doing a day-to-day activity like brushing your teeth, you don't need a system to thinking. A system one thinking comes and applies in your brushing process. But let's say you are thinking of changing a job or you are applying for a college. That requires some sort of a system to thinking because it requires an effort, it requires a process. That should I take this job or should I not? Should I go to this college or that college? Right? So as a part of that, we apply our brain to a system to thinking. In its current state, what LLMs are primarily doing what our human brain do in the system one thinking. But what if we are able to sort of force LLMs to do a system to thinking by applying certain principles, and those principles are nothing but agents. So what we can do with agents, right? So particularly in this scenario, we had an example of creating a job posting for blah. Instead of doing that, we still ask it to create a job posting, but we give certain inputs. And as a part of that, we create a workflow. And using the workflow, we ask LLM to come up with a better output at the end of the day. So what you are going to witness in next few minutes is I have created a software called a website where I'm able to key in certain criteria like what is the company name, what is the job requirement, what is the job description if you have any, and some basic input, and then let LLM do the magic, let also agents do the magic. And when we say agents, let's quickly dive in. When we say agent, this input is going to the system, which I have built using some of the frameworks. We'll go through the framework shortly. But as a part of this framework, what we are doing is we are simply asking these agents to use the tools. We are asking agents to do a planning. So system 1 doesn't require any planning, but system 2 requires some sort of a planning on what it needs to do. And as a part of that, it may have to go through the step-by-step process. So go through those step-by-step process and finally orchestrate this entire thing using the systems what you see on the screen, right? So for a job description creation, what it might require, right? So for a job description, potentially you want to not only create the job description, you want to search on the internet potentially for who is hiring for this kind of role. What is the current market looks like? What is that industry in this particular job role would look like? And based on that, you want to write and you want to iterate, because the one agent is doing the research, call a research agent or analysis agent, and it's feeding to a second system which is writing. And those two are working in coordination with each other and back and forth iterative approach. And eventually, once the writing is done, it's being passed on to what we call an editor or edit agent, where in this scenario, that editor is editing for any grammatical issue, any other challenges, what it might see. And all of this work is not only done by the software, but it's also, there is a lot of LLM involved here, right? So let's take a look at what do I mean by search or research. Maybe you want to search for that particular company's culture, company's value, company's mission. It's not given as an input. You may need to search for it. Quite often you want to search for what kind of role and responsibility for this particular role, what kind of responsibility and qualifications are required, because as a hiring manager, you may not have enough details of what is the current market looks like. So you may want to do a lot of research around that area, and that requires some sort of a search functionality, maybe a Google search. If you are human, you might do a Google search. What if we ask agent to do that kind of Google search for us, right? And from there, we take this input, create a job description, and further we edit those job descriptions. So quite often here, when we are looking at writing that job description, it's being done by LLM again. LLM is always in the picture, but we are asking LLM to think through and then apply it. So we are giving it more information and we are giving additional prompts as a part of our auxiliary input. And using that, LLM is creating a better output. And finally, it's editing. And editing also is done by LLM here, where it's editing for a grammar, for other alignment from a company mission or company statement point of view. And eventually, if there are any content refinement has to be done, that is all being done by LLM. But here, that agent is invoking LLM. The editor agent is invoking LLM, and then it's doing the work, right? So with that, let's see if we can do this in a real time. And let me switch over from presentation to my browser. And hopefully here we go. So this is a browser we have. I'm using GPT 3.5, ChatGPT, you all know. And I have a prompt ready. I'm saying that create a job description for software engineer to be hired at Cerebras Systems. This is my current company. I work for Cerebras. And you all would have seen this, but as soon as we send this kind of message, it's printing this, right? This is typical ChatGPT, what we are used to. And what we call here, it's more of a system one thinking. And when we say system one thinking, it's not giving enough mental cycle from that LLM point of view, and it's simply printing out the next token or the next word, and what we see is the output, right? This is okay. I mean, I can use this as is, but there could be many things. Typically, as a hiring manager, if I'm hiring for a software engineer in my company, I would not use this as is, because there are few things which I may want to modify. For example, it's talking about CUDA. I mean, again, I can use CUDA, but we don't use NVIDIA, right? We are a separate company. We are a Cerebras. We build our own hardware and our own software, and quite likely we are not going to use CUDA. So there are many things which I may want to edit. And as a part of that, I mean, all hiring manager does that of editing their job description. And so I would need to edit as well. But what if we are able to use this exactly what we have here and apply the agents and let that agent do the work for us? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to that system which I have built. I'll show you what exactly goes behind the scene, but I'll key in, let's say, a company description, right? So I have wrote down the company description for Cerebras system. I'm simply gonna paste it here. The company domain, we are in artificial intelligence domain. I'm hiring software engineer specific benefits, medical, dental, vision, blah blah blah. Okay, and I'm asking it, okay, go and create the agent. So what you see here is this is a Streamlit base front end, and it's running now. It's showing here. Behind the scene, I have a Python code going on. So what I'm doing is I'm using a crewAI. crewAI is a framework. They have built an amazing framework, and as a part of that framework, what I'm doing is I'm embedding that framework into my overall coding. And this, as a part of that framework, the first thing this software is doing is going and searching for the company detail. And when we say company detail, is going to Cerebras and search for what Cerebras does, what kind of mission statement, the vision statement company has, and then based on that, it's going to search for more things. It's also, so right now what we see here is kind of going through some of the blog post what Cerebras has written down. That way it gets an idea in terms of what Cerebras is. So it's going through those blog posts and extracting that information out, and it's storing in the memory, or a short-term memory, what we call it, and feeding into LLM so that LLM can write that information based on all of this data what has been presented here. So if I go back to that chart here, right? So it's doing some research, it's doing some analysis, and then it's writing. So that is the process going on right now. I mean, typically this entire process takes about 4 to 5 minutes, and I won't bore you with the details what's going behind the scene. I'm going to share where that GitHub code is in the link below. So you'll get to see where that actual code is, what it's doing behind the scene. Actually, let me walk you through a code. Where am I? Yeah, I'm right here, right? So what it does is there is a main.py, which is nothing but identifying what this crewAI, importing the crewAI, what is the job posting process looks like, and it's kind of defining the task for various agents. There are 3 agents. We talked about research agent, which is doing the research, the writer agent, which is doing the writing, and the review agent, which is doing the editing. Right, so these are the 3 agents, and there are tasks defined for each of this agent. Like you can do a company, you have to do a company research, you are doing industry research, you have to do other functionality, and eventually roll it up everything and finally get the result out there. Now you may say what that agent.py look like. So here is the agents.py look like. So the one agent is on the research agent. The research agent is doing a research analyst, and the prompt is this: analyze this company, and we are giving some backstory as a part of that. Then the writer agent, and then the review agent. All 3 are kind of working in joint functionality all together with each other. And finally I have a task defined. Again, this is all thanks to crewAI. Many of this task has been defined by them. They have created many of the breakdown as well. But quite often you may want to modify based on what you are doing. Instead of creating a job description, maybe you want to do an essay writing. Then the input here will change, because this is sort of a prompt template if you think from an angle point of view. So these are the prompt given out to the LLM, and LLM is going to use this prompt to come with certain answers. Right? So these are the tasks created for various tasks what we want agents to do. And finally we have that app.py which is giving us that user interface from a Streamlit point of view. So this is the title what you saw in the agentic job creation. Here we go, agentic job posting creation, and then the inputs whatever we have, and eventually it's working through. So looks like I did run into trouble around maximum context length. Okay, all right, I'm going to fix this and show you the final output of what the output would look like, and I'll also share the code so that you can go through the code of what this entire process looks like. Okay, so what you see on the screen now is a successfully completed process. So when we entered all of these details, it created the job posting for us with a job title of a software engineer, company Cerebras, location. It figured out that the location should be San Jose or remote, depends on how company is doing, and it has all of the about Cerebras, job description, the responsibilities, the qualification. Now we will see in the slides in a minute or so where this compared to ChatGPT, particularly on the other side, where there is verbs are different, the words are different. There is a better output compared to what we see here on the ChatGPT than what we get from agent's point of view. So there is a clear advantage of using this, particularly the knowledge of FPGA or ASICs development is a plus. This never came up in the ChatGPT. ChatGPT also talked about CUDA, but Cerebras is a different hardware company. It's not NVIDIA, so there is no CUDA. So those small nuances you don't want in your job description as a hiring manager, and this is actually taking care of it very nicely to support that functionality. But what happened behind the scenes? So let's take a look at this command window, right? I mean, if you are executing on your own using the GitHub code I'm going to provide you, all you need is two things. You need to give one OpenAI API key and the Serper API keys, and then you should be good to go. Serper is used for mainly the searching the internet, and OpenAI, as you can imagine, is used as an LLM for most of the work what we are doing here today. So this is the kind of a searching functionality what we see here, searching for a specific website. In this case, it's searching Cerebras because we are asking for Cerebras to be hired in Cerebras. So it's looking for company culture, value, mission, and so forth, right? So it's going through all the details. It found the company mission. It's searching further down in some of the other details, like it's going through the other content what it has found, and then it's sending this to the writer agent, and the writer agent is doing its own work. And there are many processes it goes through. Again, I'm scrolling through quickly, but if you run this on any of your local host as well, you should be able to do it without having a server. But it's coming up with a potential job description, and then it's doing further analysis in terms of what that job description might look like. So as a part of that, it's going through the job posting, it's going through some of the other details like industry, trend, what kind of challenges and the opportunities exist for certain roles. So it's going through internet for, as you can see, read write. It's going through Simple Learn, it's going through LinkedIn, and many more places in terms of the industry knowledge. So it's gaining that industry knowledge, and then it's going further into the details of how can I leverage this industry knowledge to come up with a job description for that particular industry. Because remember, in that question what we were asking here, we provided the company domain as a AI industry. So that's why it's looking for AI industry and the details around AI. So it's going through the AI statistics and then many more things, right? So this is on the industry aspect, then the challenge and opportunity in AI, and then it goes through the position details. Further, again, it's going through a lot of other aspects as well. I won't go into the detail of all of this, but at the end of the day, again, this is an entire output what you see as a part of that overall flow. It took about 5.5-6 minutes for me to run, but finally I got this output what you see on the screen in a markdown format, which I converted markdown into this output what you see on the screen. And I have a gist as well, which I'll show you as a part of the GitHub link. So you have all the details, and hopefully this helps you understand what went behind the scene. What we see on the left side is created by ChatGPT, and what we see on the right side is created by this ChatGPT plus agents. Remember, these agents are nothing new. It's a bunch of software code and additional prompts, but it's eventually using ChatGPT to do its job, right? So what you see on the left is plain. What you see on the right is somewhat improvised, and I would say it's 70 to 80% improvised based on the green color. The blue color is kind of using existing text What we see in the chatGPT is exactly what we see on the right side as well. But as we go further from about Cerebras to the job description of that particular role, what we see on the left versus right is quite dramatically changed, because it's using a lot of additional knowledge to come up with that job description. And eventually, if we go further, responsibilities have improvised as well. If you ask me from a reading point of view, from a human eye point of view, we can say that this has a better output, a concise output from a language point of view, and that is the actual goal we want to have. That we want to have a better output as a part of this. The same goes for qualification. Now, the default ChatGPT came up with qualification of the required qualification, the preferred qualification, and the agent kind of combined them in a single concise, instead of going through a 6 plus 5, 11 different qualification. It combined everything into probably 9 output altogether. So it's definitely a better way of identifying and working through the system. But this is all I had when we were talking about agents. But as you can see, the agents, which are kind of still evolving in the field, you may have heard about Devon, the AI engineer agent, which is kind of trying to replace software engineer with an AI. And that is still in the works. I mean, it's not 100% done. There are many companies trying to solve the same problem. But at the end of the day, the agents are going to help with LLM to improvise of what we are doing today, where a monotonous ChatGPT output and then we go and edit with human. Instead of, we can apply some sort of an agentic workflow and orchestrate it all together for task-based functionality. So in this scenario, we describe the task of job description creation, and we came up with these 3 sub-agents which are doing its own individual job and then combining final output. Similarly, many more agents we will see in the coming weeks, coming months, and hopefully towards end of this year, we see many more agents. So hopefully you learned something about agents today, and feel free to ask questions and then we'll figure it out together. Thank you.